Jennifer's like still crying, right? And she's like, some people broke into my home and stole all this money. My parents are yelling down the stairs, please send help. In the background, the dispatcher hears screaming. A man, Jennifer's father, is in agony. Jennifer tries to reassure him. She's on the phone with 911, but the horror is just beginning. Detective Bill Cortese was already in bed when the call came in. The kind of call no cop ever wants to get. They're telling him there's been a double shooting, it's a violent scene, and he will be the lead investigator. Now, Markham, the city of Markham, is known to be a quiet, family-oriented suburb. Violent crime is very rare, so this story was super shocking. Investigator Fred Moffat from the York Regional Police confirmed a homicide with one person deceased and a second victim that had been shot as well, heading to the hospital. The deceased victim was identified as a female, Vic Pond. The surviving victim was a male. Han Pond was shot in the head. More specifically, he was shot in the eye, and that had traveled into his skull and down into his jaw and neck. Han was placed in an induced coma for his injuries. Background on the Pond family was that they immigrated from Vietnam years ago. They were described as hardworking individuals with no explanation as to why they'd be targets for a horrendous attack. Investigators had concerns that Han would not survive, and they'd only have one witness to interview, which was the daughter, Jennifer Pond. Now it's day one. This is the first interview with Jennifer. Randy Slade is interviewing her, and he's a member of the York Regional Police Homicide Unit. Randy asks Jennifer to walk him through the day prior to the event. Jennifer says her mom prepared dinner because she was headed to go line dancing that night, and she does this line dancing every Monday. Jennifer and her mom ate dinner, and then Jennifer went up to her room for the night. Jennifer had put her TV on and was talking with her friend on the phone. Shortly after, her mom came home around 9:30 or so, and suddenly she heard her mom calling for her dad to come down. Jennifer peeked outside her bedroom door, and a guy was there, and he came at her, tied her arms behind her back, and said, "I have a gun behind your back. Do what I say. If you do what I say, then no one will get hurt." Then he was like, "Where's the money? Show me where your money is." Then 3 men dragged her down the stairs and asked her mom where her purse was. Jennifer's mom kept trying to get up, but they kept telling her to sit down, and Jennifer didn't want her mom to get hurt, so she told her mom, "Mom, sit down." They tried to find her wallet, but since her English wasn't good, she kept saying purse. They kept pushing her down in the chair. During the retelling of this story in the interview, Jennifer is like breaking down crying. This was clearly hard for her to retell, and Randy just kept telling her, like, take your time, it's okay, like, take your time, because they understood this was a really hard situation for Jennifer to be in. Jennifer continues telling her story. They had taken her and tied her to the top of the banister of the stairs. She could still move, but she was afraid because the one guy had that gun, and next thing she knows is she hears her parents going down the stairs. Her mom was asking him for Jennifer to come with them, but he wouldn't let her go with them. The last thing Jennifer heard was them say, you lied to us." Then she heard 2 pops. Boom, boom. Her mom screamed. Jennifer was yelling out for her. Then more pops. Boom, once again was like, take your time. It's okay. Like, it's now 3 in the morning and the interview is continuing. Randy asked Jennifer if she heard other voices down there, and she said she thought her mom say or moan something, but they did one more pop before they left. Then one of the guys said, we have to go now, it's been too long, and then they ran out the door. Detective Deborah Gladding was assigned as the victim liaison officer in this case. Her role was to be the point of contact for the victims and their families, available at all times if they needed support or someone to talk to. She described her responsibility as being on call emotionally, saying if they're having a difficult time or struggling, they can always reach out. Deborah couldn't imagine what Jennifer was going through. She made a conscious effort to keep Jennifer's statements slow and steady, hoping that by doing so, Jennifer would be able to continue opening up about her traumatic events. Deborah felt a deep sense of empathy. Jennifer, in her eyes, had been helpless. She was tied up, unable to assist her parents as the attack unfolded around her. Randy then asked Jennifer to describe the men involved, the ones who had tied her up. Jennifer provided the following details. One of the men had dreadlocks and was black. The second man wore a hoodie. She noted he was also black, but had a lighter complexion and a thinner build than the first one. The third man, according to Jennifer, spoke with a Jamaican accent. During her interview, Jennifer told Randy that she didn't know how the intruders got into the house. She didn't see anything that would indicate their point of entry and couldn't remember hearing anything unusual before the attack began. Randy asked whether her parents were known maybe to keep large sums of money in the house, like cash. She was like, no. He asked her if her parents maybe had significant amount of money in the bank. She was like, I wouldn't say it's large enough to raise flags. I mean, it's enough to cover the bills. Investigators noted that while the Pans appeared to live comfortably, their lifestyle didn't seem extravagant. But Han did drive a Mercedes-Benz and Vic did drive a Lexus, which are both high-end vehicles. The family had immigrated from Vietnam to Canada years earlier and were known for their work ethic and modest living. Vic worked as a supervisor at a car parts manufacturer, and Han was a machinist. Their home was well kept and fully paid off, but it wasn't anything luxurious. With no immediate signs of forced entry and no known history of conflict, investigators began exploring possible motives. Could Han have been involved in maybe some illicit activity? Was this attack tied to gambling, debts, or weapons, or drugs? Could it have stemmed from a dispute with like a neighbor, or was it just something more personal? Jennifer told detectives that before the final shots were fired, she heard one of the intruders say, "You lied to us, you lied to us, you just had to cooperate," and then they shot him. Investigators reviewed photos taken from the crime scene, including one of the ransacked rooms inside the home. While the area appeared to have been searched, several valuable items were left untouched, raising questions about robbery as a motive. Some untouched items were a wallet. It had money in it and everything. A safe. Other valuables like a watch and like jewelry and stuff, untouched. Near the scene of the attack, blood-stained clothing and pajamas were found, along with a basin where Beck had reportedly been soaking her feet after dancing. The untouched valuables raised doubts about whether this had ever truly been a robbery. If the intruders had been after cash or property, they seemingly left behind exactly what they had came for. While investigators knew that appearances of investigation. Detective Bill Cortese delivered the morning briefing to the homicide unit. One quote was, "There's nothing normal about murder, but this one is particularly unnerving," says David McDonald, the field investigator. McDonald's first assignment was to conduct a large-scale canvass of the area surrounding the Bond residence. The goal? To identify any eyewitnesses or gather any details that could help piece together what had happened. A family friend, Hung, I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, but it's NGO, was devastated. She couldn't understand why Big had been killed. Hong says, "She was just so generous. I'd have dinner at their house many times. They were hospitable, generous, warm people who loved their friends." Hong described Han as a humble man who worked hard. He worked 5 days a week, sometimes overtime. She insisted he had no ties to organized crime, gambling, or any of the previous questions that investigators thought maybe he could be involved with. Now, after hours of canvassing the area, investigators finally received a tip that shifted their focus. Someone mentioned a man with ties to the Bond residence, Danny Wong, also known as Daniel Wong, okay? Daniel. I interchange it through this episode. He is a known drug dealer who had recently been in a relationship with Jennifer. The discovery of Jennifer's connection to Danny was a critical development. Investigators were troubled that Jennifer hadn't mentioned him in her interview, especially given his criminal background. At this point, detectives began considering a new theory. Could Danny Wong have had something to do with the attack on the Bond family? An ex-boyfriend involved in illegal activity was now a significant lead and a possible motive. Investigators brought in Danny Wong, Jennifer's ex, for questioning on day 3. Danny told detectives that on the night of the incident, he was home sleeping. He said he arrived home somewhere between 9 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Danny did admit to having a history with the law. He'd previously been charged with possession and trafficking, but claimed he had stopped once he got into legal trouble. He confirmed he had been in a long-term relationship with Jennifer. They started dating near the end of high school, and the relationship continued for about 7 years, and it ended 2 years ago-ish. Despite the breakup, he said they still kept in contact and remained friends. Danny said the relationship was difficult due to Jennifer's strict parents, who disapproved of him. They didn't like that he only worked at a pizza shop and didn't believe he could support her financially. He said Jennifer's parents made her so busy with school and piano that she had little time for a social life. In 7 years, he never once had dinner with her family. Danny claimed that Jennifer still wanted to be with him, but over time, he moved on. Despite moving on, Danny said he and Jennifer remained in contact, especially recently because they were both being harassed. According to Danny, they started receiving strange phone calls that ended days before the attack. He described them as the phone would ring, he would answer it, it would be silent for about 10 relationship with Danny, and while they seemed happy at first, he said there was a lot of drama. One story stood out to him. Jennifer had worked an entire summer, and with the money she earned, she bought Danny a paintball gun. When asked why, she said, "I didn't have anyone better to spend it on, not even myself." Now the neighbors around the Pond home were growing anxious. They were like wanting answers. They felt unsafe. Someone, their neighbor, just randomly got attacked and murdered brutally in their own home for what seems to be like no reason. They were like, yeah, we need answers. Investigators started like trying to get tips and anything they could possibly get for more information. Then investigators received a breakthrough. A security camera across the street from the Pond residence captured critical footage. The video showed 3 individuals approaching the Pond home that night and entering through the front door. Roughly 30 minutes later, the footage shows one person exiting quickly, and moments later, the other 2 run out and flee the scene. Importantly, there were no signs of forced entry. All 3 suspects had entered through the front door. Investigators requested now a second interview with Jennifer, this time with a deeper focus on her personal background, her relationships, and her mental state. We are now on day 4, interview 2. Detectives began by asking Jennifer about the night of the home invasion. Did you hear how they got into the house? Was it a doorbell ring, a door being kicked in? Jennifer's like, no. She explains that there were no sounds she could recall that explained how the suspects gained entry. Investigators shift focus to Jennifer's ex-boyfriend, Daniel Wong. Jennifer said it was a really tough relationship. We went to high school together and we were together for about 6 years, but I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend. When asked whether she believed Danny could have had anything to do with the home invasion, Jennifer said, well, when I ask him what he's doing, he always says he's out on a run, but I don't ask for details because I'm not with him anymore. Jennifer then brought up Danny's current girlfriend, Christine, though she claimed Danny only referred to her as a friend. Jennifer alleged that Christine frequently messaged her to leave Danny alone, sometimes even from Danny's own phone. The messages included, like, "You're stupid," and "He's with his girlfriend, leave him alone." Jennifer described this behavior as jealousy, but suggested that Christine could potentially be involved in the harassing phone calls that both she and Danny had received in the days before the attack. Jennifer said her parents were furious when they discovered she was dating Danny. Her father gave her an ultimatum: choose him or choose us. Jennifer chose her family, but even after the breakup, she and Danny remained in contact. Eventually, her parents caught her talking to Danny again. As punishment, they took away her cell phone and they began driving her everywhere. Her schedule became tightly controlled. It was, wake up, piano studies, piano lessons, repeat. Jennifer's piano teacher described her as an exceptional student. Her father dropped her off weekly for lessons, and she consistently won competitions year after year after year. The teacher noted that the family's commitment and the thousands of dollars invested into her piano career was extraordinary. But then, one day, during a lesson, Jennifer broke down in tears, something he never saw before. Jennifer confessed that her parents followed her everywhere. They just didn't trust her. They forbid her from dating Danny because he wasn't acceptable to her father. Jennifer told her teacher, "They're driving continued, and investigators asked Jennifer what she wanted to do with her life. She said she had wanted to pursue how the hey do you say this? Kinesiology. I'm gonna put the name here, but I think it's kinesiology. But her father had other plans. He insisted she go into the medical field, specifically pharmacy, because he knew she didn't have the stomach for being a doctor. Now, the family friend Hong had said that Bick had often spoke about her daughter. She said that Bick had told her Jennifer studied to be a pharmacist but was having trouble finding a job after graduating. She was worrying about it all the time, and she just wanted Jennifer to be successful and to not be looked down upon by society. This interview gave investigators deeper insight into Jennifer's pressured upbringings, her strained personal relationships, and the emotional toll of living under her parents' expectations. But it also raised further questions. Was Jennifer a victim of control and emotional distress, or was there something more beneath the surface? Jennifer told investigators that she never actually attended university for pharmacy, as she had told her parents. Instead, she lied to them, claiming she was studying science at Ryerson University. Her parents would drive her to Toronto, believing she was going to class, but Jennifer was not attending school at all. Jennifer admitted she felt guilty, but said every time she tried to bring it up, the expectations from her parents were overwhelming. Investigators later uncovered that Jennifer had been lying for 4 years about attending university. 4 years. More shockingly, she had also forged a false degree from the University of Toronto. Authorities replayed the 911 call Jennifer made on the night of the attack. One detail that raised suspicion was that Jennifer told the operator she couldn't close the door because her hands were tied behind her back. So the investigators started wondering, well, how could she make the phone call if her hands were tied behind her back to the banister? When asked to explain, Jennifer said that the man told her to stand so he could tie her hands together tightly behind her back. She tried to keep the ties loose, but he pulled them tight until she squealed before releasing her grip and dragging her downstairs. She also said she was thankful the attacker never patted her down because she still had her phone hidden in her waistband. The investigator then asked Jennifer to stand and demonstrate how her hands were tied and how she could have taken her phone out while restrained. Using an object as a stand-in for the phone, Jennifer mimicked reaching into her waistband and pulling it out. She actually did. I was thinking like she wouldn't be able to pull this off. This would be the big like telltale, like she was lying. But no, she literally had her hands behind her back. She had the phone mimic in her waistband. She pulled it out. She pulled her hands to the side, kind of similar. You can't really see, but a similar fashion to mine. She said she looked down right over here like this. And she called 911 similar to that. So I was shocked when I saw her do it. Detective Deborah Gladding, the victim liaison officer, felt the emotional pain Jennifer was reliving during the reenactment, but understood it was necessary for the investigation. The fact that Jennifer could make the call while tied up was described by investigators as interesting, but it was not enough to shift their focus away from the other theories. One major question investigators wrestled with was, why would the attackers leave a surviving witness? They found it puzzling that 2 victims were shot and Jennifer was left alive. They thought asked why she thought she was spared, Jennifer was like, well, probably because I cooperated. When investigators asked about life insurance, Jennifer said she didn't know if her parents had any. She's like, I think they do, I'm not sure. She revealed she had life insurance herself, and her parents had one for her when she was younger. However, part of that money was used for university, and when her parents discovered she hadn't been attending school, they demanded the money back. This raised more questions. The investigator was like, hold on, wait a minute. You told me they never knew you weren't going to university. When did they find out? Jennifer was like, I told them I graduated, but I never went to university. I went for 2 years, but never finished. When asked about her feelings toward her parents' strict control and how it affected her life, Jennifer was like, at the end of the day, I loved my parents and I chose to be with them. If I wanted to, I could have left, but I didn't. The investigator then said bluntly, so you don't have anything to do with this? She's like, nope. Investigators were becoming more convinced that Jennifer was not telling the full truth. During her interviews, they noticed signs of nervous behavior. She was grooming her hair. She was like this a lot. Shifting in her seat, she was moving back and forth. Even like when she was standing up, at some point she was walking back and forth and she was really like touching her hair. She started touching her stomach and avoiding sustained eye contact. Investigators believed she was withholding information, but without another witness, they couldn't prove it just yet. The only other person who could offer a first-hand account was Han, Jennifer's dad, but he remained in a medically induced coma. But on day 5 of the investigation, detectives received word that Han was being brought out of his coma. It was the moment the case took a turn. When they first saw him, they noticed a severely bruised right eye and a small gunshot wound just beside his nose. That was where the bullet had entered, and that traveled into his skull, jaw, and neck. Han recounted what had happened the night of the attack. He had gone to bed early. His wife, Vic, had been out line dancing, and Jennifer was already home. Han was awakened by a man with a gun, ordering him out of bed and down the stairs. In the living room, he saw his wife hysterical, pleading over and over with the intruders. We don't have any money. Can you let us go? We don't have any money. One of the suspects told them to shut up. Han was then pistol whipped while lying on the couch. Vic was seated on another couch, begging for her life. That's when Han saw something that changed everything. He said Jennifer walked downstairs with one of the suspects. She was not tied up. She appeared to be in a calm, even friendly conversation with the intruder. This detail contradicted everything Jennifer had said. Investigators now believed Jennifer had not been a victim. She had played a direct role in the murder of her mother and the attempted murder of her father. On day 9, they went back to have a follow-up interview with Han. In the second conversation, Han told detectives, use your police techniques to find out what Jennifer did. They kept investigating, and on day 14, Jennifer is now being interviewed by a new detective, Bill Gates, trained in lie detection and behavior analysis. Bill asks her what else did she do to pretend that she was in school. Jennifer tells him that she would create documents for her parents when they'd ask for something, such as a student loan or a report card, and she did this all through Photoshop. Gates continued to probe Jennifer's emotional state and relationship history. He asked if your parents had allowed it, would you still be with Daniel Daniel Wong? Jennifer's like, maybe, but I'm not sure. He's moved on. She said Daniel had filled a void in her life, though. Jennifer then went on to share her mental health struggles. She admitted she had been unhappy with every part of her life. While her friends were moving forward with theirs, she felt stuck and left behind. She revealed that she had even harmed herself in the past. In Canada, police are legally allowed to use deception during interrogations as long as it doesn't bring the administration of justice into disrepute. Detective Gates used a tactic designed to increase psychological pressure. He told Jennifer, "We have satellite imaging. It can detect movement inside a home similar to like an X-ray. We can see where people were standing in a room." Now, this was not true, but it was meant to make Jennifer doubt her version of events and possibly slip up. They also thought maybe she would kind of make another lie too. They just wanted to see what she would do with this. He asked her, "Do you know who was in the house that night?" She's like, "I don't know." He's like, "You do, Jen. There's no question about that, okay?" He told her the core issue was that her father wasn't supposed to survive, and that was the mistake. He pointed out another contradiction. Jennifer had described a black man with dreadlocks as one of the suspects, but Han described someone entirely different. They were not black. Jennifer replied, "Well, that's what I remember." After hours of denial, Detective Bill Gates confronts Jennifer. He's like, "You're involved in this. You didn't think this far ahead, did you? Those guys didn't come to steal your money. They came to shoot your parents. And they didn't come randomly. This was set in motion. But once they started, you couldn't stop it, could you?" She starts like sobbing. She's like, "I wanted it to stop." He's like, "Why didn't they stop for you?" She's like, "I don't know who they were." Bill's like, but you were part of the planning, right? You're sorry, aren't you?" She's like, Jennifer starts whispering now. Her head is like down on her, it looks like on her knees almost. And she's whispering really, really quiet. So Bill had to repeat what she was saying. He's like, "They were supposed to take you." She's whispering again, but this time I could hear her. And she's like, "I needed them to kill me." He's like, "Why?" "I didn't want to live anymore." She explains that the plan was for her to be killed, not her family. She said she was overwhelmed by guilt and pressure, believing she had become a disappointment to her parents. Jennifer tells investigators she asked somebody to kill her. She was introduced to a man known only as Homeboy or Homie through a friend, and the fee was $2,000. He would text her a code when they were ready, and the message was simple: VIP access. And that was code for "we're on our way in." Jennifer says when her mom got home from the line dancing, she went downstairs, said hello to her mom, pretended to check the door. She then texted Homeboy to confirm access. Jennifer told investigators that she got in contact with Homeboy through a friend. Detectives were like, "Okay, we need to get a warrant to search Jennifer's phone because there's information in there." Immediately, they find a message from Homeboy. Homeboy says, "I need the time of completion. Think about it." Jennifer texts him back, "Today is a no-go. Dinner plans." Even more telling are the text exchange between Jennifer and Daniel Wong. It says, "Do you love me and want to be with me?" Daniel replies, "I'm really down right now, Jen. I'm sorry." She's like, "What do you mean? What are you sorry for? Can you please answer?" He goes, "I don't know how to say this. I feel the way you feel, but about her." She's like, "So you feel for Christine what I feel for you? Then call it off with Homeboy." "Call it off with Homeboy? You said you wanted this with or without me. You said you wanted this for you." Daniel ended at Jennifer and started texting. "I was always walking on eggshells with you. I did everything and lined it all up for you. Contact homeboy." Investigators now see Daniel as actively involved. They place him under surveillance and begin investigating one phone to the next. Through a series of digital and surveillance investigations, 3 suspects are identified. Lenford Crawford, aka Homeboy. He's also a drug dealer and an associate of Daniel. We have David McValgum, I think is how you say his last name, and Eric Carty. Jennifer received a text from Homeboy saying, "Game time." Jennifer waited for her mother to return home from line dancing. When Vic arrived, Jennifer says goodnight, walks to the front door, unlocks it, and returns upstairs. She texts the suspects, then she flashed the lights as a signal to enter the home. It goes on and off and on and off. Jennifer then waits in her bedroom as the plan unfolds. Jennifer was arrested and charged with first-degree murder of her mother, Vic, attempted murder of her father, Han, and conspiracy to commit murder. Investigators later find Jennifer's diary, revealing a fixation on Daniel and repeated complaints about her restrictive home life, saying that her parents didn't want her to date a drug dealer because it would bring her life down. She often drew butterflies and puppy dogs, imagining a fairy tale life with Daniel. Investigators believe Jennifer fabricated the threatening messages she and Daniel had been receiving, sending them herself to create panic and draw Daniel back in and his new girlfriend Christine out. They believe Daniel's motivation in this whole thing was financial. With her parents gone, Jennifer would have access to an inheritance worth approximately $500,000, money he may have expected to share, possibly to fund his drug dealing. Han had told Jennifer prior, "You must cease the relationship with Daniel Wong. If not, you have to wait until I'm dead." How crazy is that statement considering what we know now? Like, that's what he told her before. This also wasn't Jennifer's first attempt to have her father killed. 10 months earlier, she had offered money to a friend to kill her father. That plan had fallen apart, but it revealed her intent. On the night of the murder, Vic was forced to her knees. A gunman pointed a weapon at her, and her last words were, "Don't hurt my daughter." How heartbreaking is that?